It's always fun when we get to talk to one of the artists that we play here on Yes FM. It is my super, super divine pleasure to introduce you guys to Miss Jen Ledger. Hello, Jen.
Hi, that's a very nice intro. I feel like it was too nice.
Not too nice. Oh my goodness. Our listening audience just loves you. We love you. And
oh my gosh. Well, I love you guys too, so thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So Jen Ledger, for some of those in our listening audience who might be a little bit new to Yes FM and new to just the Christian music genre in general, Jen happens to be the drummer of Skillet, and Jen is also got a solo EP out. So that is who Jen is, for those of you who don't know, but most of our listeners do know. So hence why the kind words, because they know you.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. Thank you.
All right. So Jen, you've been with Skillet for how long? You started like when you were, 18?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've been touring with Skillet for 10 years now, and they asked me to try out when I was 17 years old. I wanted nothing to do with the drums. I was sure I was bad at them and I could never play, and my whole goal was to be a hairdresser. And so at 17 years old, though, I tried out for Skillet, and God definitely had way different plans for me in my life. And 10 years on, I am very glad. It's been a joy and an adventure to be with them all this time. And in case people are wondering, I am not leaving Skillet, even though I have just stepped into doing my own side project. It's called Ledger, but I'm touring with Skillet too, and I'll still be drumming with Skillet while I pursue this side project too.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that, because that was actually the next question. I was like, Jen, I got to ask you this question, because like some people that hear, hey, doing solo project, is she leaving the band? Jen can't leave the band.
I know, because I have to keep clarifying, because people are so disappointed by the side project. And I'm like, why are they so upset? And I'm like, oh, it's because they think I'm leaving Skillet. So I feel like it's the first thing I have to say. Like, I'm not leaving Skillet. So I hope you like the side project now, too.
Yeah. No, man, we were like completely the opposite. We're like, it's about time. We're like, yeah.
So nice. That's encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was super cool because, John and Corey, and Corey's got an amazing voice, too, and we had heard her voice, like back in the days of like Best Kept Secret, that kind of stuff. And then, we heard her voice on some stuff, but it kind of waned down. And then all of a sudden we're hearing female vocals again. We're like, is that Corey? And they're like, no, that's Jen. And we're like, ooh, this is cool. Girl drummer for one, young drummer for two, girl drummer, young drummer who can sing for three. It's like the trifecta.
That's so nice. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think, how like God sort of like shields sort of like the next season from you, because he knows if you had any idea what this meant, you'd run away screaming, I think that's what he did, because for a start, I really genuinely didn't like being in front of people. So the idea of performing was terrifying. The idea of performing on the drums was even more terrifying, because I was convinced I wasn't good at that. But then had I known that I'd end up singing too, I think it would have just blown my mind. But that kind of just, it happened so quickly. I think I was like 18. Yeah, I must have been 18 when Hero was written. And John needed someone to sing the girl vocals on the demo really quick, but Corey was unavailable. And so I ended up filling in that day. And I have really not pursued singing either. So came in and sang the Hero demo. And then he was like, oh, your voice really suits that, And so I ended up singing it on the real album. And then John turned to me and he was like, well, now you got to learn to do it all at the same time. And so I went home and I'm figuring out what word goes with what arm and what syllable goes with what beat. And it was something that I think if I'd have had a clue that that's what I was getting into, it probably would have I would have run away. I would have been like, no way. But now I'm super thrilled, obviously. I've kind of been training slowly in the singing. Corey gave me a ton of lessons and really worked with me to help me with my breathing. And I had to learn to sing in an American accent so I didn't sound too weird singing next to John. But yeah, we got there, and it's really cool and surreal now to be stepping into writing my own music and being the front person and singing in the front project. It's cool to see what God can do if you're just like stepping out and trusting He'll help you. because these are things that would have been it just felt terrifying to me 12 years ago. I'd have been like, no way, I'll be a hairdresser, thank you very much.
I was going to say, you probably went home and like watched a bunch of like Phil Collins videos and stuff like that, you know, from like his transition from Genesis, you know, to his solo career. Because it's kind of like the same thing. You're just the female version. Yeah. You know.
I think it would be cool if I did a cover of one of his songs, just because, like,
you should.
It's kind of cool to be doing a similar thing, and his music's so good. I'm not even embarrassed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be so epic if you did that. Yeah, that would be super cool.
Maybe I'll keep.
Just saying.
Well, I should have kept it a secret, but now I've told everyone. Oh well.
Now it's out there. There's no going back now. Sorry, Jen. Threw you under the bus.
Yeah. We can all feel it coming in the air tonight.
Oh, there you go.
You're welcome.
So once again, we're talking to Jen Ledger, drummer of Skillet, and got Ledger, the EP, out doing some solo stuff as well. Not leaving the band. Let's clarify that if you're just tuning in. Not leaving the band. Jen, tell us about Ledger. You know, I imagine the journey was like absolutely insane, but like exciting at the same time with that. And we know that like Corey had her hands in it, helping you out, and that Seth Mosley. Come on now, my goodness.
Dream team, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Honestly, it really has been a long process. We started working on it 6 years ago. It was when I was noticing touring with Skillet, we're going all over the world, and different people are saying, hey, I was actually going to kill myself, and then I heard your song last night, and it saved my life. Or people saying, you know, I was addicted to heroin, and then I've heard your music, and it's empowered me to be clean. And those things were really hitting me hard. I was just seeing how much God uses music to influence and empower people. And I was also noticing at the same time, a lot of girls were saying things like, hey, I started to learn drums because of you. Or I know this sounds dumb, but they would say like, hey, I've changed my hair because I wanted it to be like you. And I was really humbled at the thought that God has given me this platform and that it influences people. And for me, obviously, God's just like radically changed my life and done such impossible things for me. It's by the grace of God that I've been able to do any of these things. So I just kind of realized maybe I could use this platform in a way that's even more vocal and just choose to use it to the best of my abilities. And I really felt in praying about it that this was something God had for me. So I spoke to the Coopers 6 years ago, and I was like, hey, world-renowned platinum-selling artists, will you please teach me how to write songs? And so they took me under their wing, and Corey started working with me that very year, and we probably wrote 12 to 15 songs that first year. And it's been a long process because I was a beginner, you know. I was just happy if I finished a song, let alone figured out what genre it was in. So it had no identity as far as sound, and that's something that we've taken the time to sharpen and shape. And it was really within the last 2 years that it just became clear it had its own identity. It really reflected me as a musician. It kept like the edge of, I've been in a touring rock band for 10 years, and that's not going to go away. But then I've also got some pop influences and some lighter influences, and it was really starting to have its own identity. And none of us wanted to do a Skillet Part B. We wanted to do, you know, Ledger, and we really wanted it to be a good representation of who I am. And so, yeah, it was a ton of ups and downs, but we launched the project on the 16-country Skillet tour just like 6 weeks ago, and it was so surreal to finally have this music that's been in my heart or been in my pocket for a few years as a secret, all of a sudden launched and out there and announced, and people were connecting with it and are singing the songs. And it was like, on the one hand, so surreal and dreamy, like I've been praying and working towards this for so long, and now it's happening. On the other side, it was stretching as crap and terrifying, because all of a sudden I'm stepping out on stage and I'm not behind the drums, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do with my arms and legs? It was more stretching than I thought it was going to be. But it was an incredibly exciting season, and now it's just thrilling to get to talk to all these radio shows, and people are connecting with the music, and yeah, sorry, in a nutshell, it has been a journey, but it's a really thrilling one.
No need to apologize at all. I mean, we're thrilled to be able to hear your story, and I know that, our listeners are too. They like to know who Jen Ledger is beyond, the drummer of Skillet, and, even like your own solo EP, getting to know you as a person. And I can imagine, I've read some stuff, I can imagine there was a bit of, anxiety going on there by stepping out like that. Mm-hmm. There's just been this recurring theme of like, a lot of artists dealing with that, like Andy Mineo with his new EP addressing that. What would you say to our listeners out there? Because we know that there's a lot of listeners out there within our listening audience, especially because they're a younger audience, who deal with like anxiety and panic attacks and that kind of stuff. What would you say to them as far as like, how to deal with it, and not having that social stigma, because there's been such a social stigma when dealing with things like that?
Totally. I mean, honestly, yeah, the whole song, the song Not Dead Yet, is written about this specifically because a few years ago, I went through a really intense season. I've never been through anything like it, where I was waking up in the night with panic attacks, and like, it wasn't just anxiety, it was like feelings of terror. Like, I just would wake up terrified, and it was a really horrible season, and I was kind of like, who am I? This is so not me. It's like disorienting, and like it's a horrible, dark feeling and a dark season to go through. And after wrestling through that, I thought, surely after I've been through something that intense, I found victory and I beat it and it's done. But last year I kind of felt those feelings start to creep back again. And I came off stage one night and I just felt so defeated, because it was right when I was starting to, the Ledger project was starting to take shape, and I knew I was going to be stepping out into something much bigger, like more stretching and more responsibility on me, and very personal to me. And then when you start panicking on stage again, you think, wow, surely I shouldn't be doing this. Obviously, I'm not cut out for this. Obviously, I can't do it. And I came to stage and I just felt, I told Corey, I was like, I can't believe I'm still struggling with this. I thought I'd beat it. What if this is something that never goes away for me? And she looked at me and she said, then you fight, Jed. You fight while there's breath in your lungs, and until the day that you die, you fight. You do not let fear rob you of your life or stop you from stepping out in the calling that God has for you. And that's what I wrote the song about, was that conversation, because I think that we as believers can feel like we're meant to be perfect, to do the things that God's called us to. And we can look around and compare ourselves like, well, they don't struggle with this, and they don't do this, and that's why God could use them easier than me. And something I've found incredibly freeing is the fact that God chooses the weak to shame the strong, and he chooses the foolish to shame the wise. It's our very weaknesses that he chooses to display his glory and his strength through. And so that was the freedom that I found. It's like, yeah, maybe I do have struggles, maybe I'll have these things that I have to battle in my life, but they won't stop me, and they won't, because God has the victory. And maybe I'm a bit broken, but my God isn't. Maybe I am a bit weak, but my God isn't. Maybe I'm not perfect, but my God is. And so I can step out into things not because of who I am, but because of who my God is. And that's what I hope that the song can help other people with, like empower them, like be free in the fact that you don't have it all together. That's okay. God never thought you did anyway. But he wants to display his glory through your life, and that's where the freedom is. And he can bring victory, and he can bring strength, but you have to be humble and let him and step out in these things. And so, I guess just be free in the fact that God doesn't choose the angels and the perfect beings to display his glory on the earth. He chooses humans. He chooses people that can be transformed in his presence, and he often chooses the one person that you think, it would never be them, but yep, it always is. So I kind of just find freedom in the fact that it's okay if I don't feel like the strongest singer or the strongest drummer, he can still use that to display himself anyway.
Man, wow. Thank you so much. And I know that our listeners are going to thank you for that too. Somebody out there needed to hear that. And I think some of the staff members here needed to hear that, myself included. So thank you.
Makes sense. Sometimes I feel like I'm rambling.
No.
It's hard to say it, isn't it? It's like, there's so much God's saying about this. I don't know how to say it. I'll do my best, and this is what I'm finding freeing. Yeah.
Yeah, and just allowing the Holy Spirit to work through you and talk about that too. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. He's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, super excited. We're talking to Jen Ledger, talking about the new EP Ledger, and we have been playing Not Dead Yet. It's been well received. Now we're starting to spin Bold as well. And we're just
thank you so much.
Just super excited for you, and we're gonna keep you in prayer that you just keep going and keep doing it. Man, I wish Corey Cooper were my mentor.
I know, honestly, it's a dream. It's like I can't believe God's let me spend 10 years with these people that are just so influential and powerful in the Lord, and like not only are they like super talented. I mean, that's cool, but like, if you guys could see them off stage, they're like the most radical believers. But it's really cool to have spent 10 years not only watching them as musicians, but watching them do business in a way that glorifies God. And the amount of times that they've been told, if you just stop talking about Jesus, you could be one of the biggest rock bands in the world. Or even on the other side, they've had a lot of Christians say, oh, you toured with Papa Roach, we won't support you anymore. It's like it can go either way, but to see God use them when they say, this is what we feel like God's calling us to, and we're going to go be a light in a dark place. And honestly, it's just been such an adventure to be a part of it. And I feel like I've been on like the dream team apprenticeship for 10 years of my life, and now stepping into doing my own like music career. I couldn't have learned from any better people, and I couldn't have a better team. It really is. It's pretty killer the way that God set it all up.
Absolutely. Hey, Jen, if people wanted to get to know you a little bit better, your music, I mean, obviously they're finding you through Skillet, but if they want to get to know Jen Ledger, where could they find you on social media?
It's an incredibly creative and inventive name. I am at Jen Ledger on Twitter, and I'm at Jen Ledger on Instagram. And they're the places I post the most. My Facebook is Ledger Band Official, and then I think my website is Ledger Band. Sorry, it's confusing, and they're all different. It's so annoying, I know, but it's hard to get names.
We'll find you. No worries.
Hopefully you'll find me. There's a lot of fake ones. Don't follow the fake ones.
Nope. Get the real one. Get the real gal.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time out to hang out with us, and we super appreciate you. We appreciate all the band Skillet and their friendship with us over the years as well. So we wish you nothing but the best. And
thank you so much. I've loved being here. Thank you so much for having me. I've seriously enjoyed chatting.